Hello and welcome back to the Second Take Podcast. My name is Calvin Williams. I'm here with my co-host Marco Rogers, and today we have a great episode of recapping the Super Bowl. We're going to talk a little bit about the game, the controversial call at the end, and everything in between. Then we'll move on to our college basketball weekly recap. A lot of stuff going on in the sport of college basketball. Lots of upsets, getting ready for March. Very exciting stuff there. And then finally, we'll predict the big games coming up in this next week, so you can be ready for whatever's coming up on your television. So, Marco, let's start it off with the fact that I correctly predicted the Super Bowl winner. You did not. So I am correct. You are incorrect. I was right. You were wrong. And the Chiefs beat the Eagles. So anything? Are you gonna touch on this at all? So, how are you feeling about this?
I'm just gonna say that I felt like the Eagles outplayed the Chiefs in this game. I'm not gonna say like the refs did anything. I mean, there was a controversial call at the end, but I felt like Eagles played the better game. They controlled the clock. Jalen Hurts, in my opinion, played better than Patrick Mahomes, besides the one fluke fumble. But like that fumble doesn't bounce in like the one direction where Bolton can pick it up. Then the game's completely different. Like it felt like a lot of the stuff that could have gone wrong for the Eagles went wrong, specifically in the second half, but also that fumble in the first half. The Chiefs did miss a field goal as well, but it just felt like Eagles, like lots of like weird plays, miscommunications, which is their fault, but like things that just don't happen to them that often were happening in this game, which is due to credit of the Chiefs, but also some of it was just like mental mistakes by their own players. So like it just felt like they could have won this game so easily. I think if they played this game 10 times, Eagles win 7 or 8. But like it just felt like a lot of the stuff was going the Chiefs' way. So Chiefs got it done. They played well, but lots of errors by the Eagles, and it felt like they definitely had this game.
Yeah, the Eagles had a shot at the end. We'll talk about the call that potentially changed the game later. But Jalen Hurts played phenomenal. Like you said, 304 passing yards, 1 passing touchdown, 3 rushing touchdowns, 70 yards on the ground for himself. He led his team in rushing, which isn't saying much because Kenneth Gainwell, Miles Sanders, and Boston Scott, none of them really did much last night. But it was a really good game for Jalen Hurts, nonetheless. But unfortunately, the Chiefs they just found a way to win. Although Patrick Mahomes didn't have the best games, only threw for 182 yards, he did do enough where some of the, I don't know if you want to call it luck, but his leadership was able to propel his team to a win. And that's definitely something you see from a guy that's been here before. Even if he doesn't play the best game, he's still putting his team in a good position to win. Definitely having Patrick Mahomes at the helm for the Chiefs is a big reason why they were able to get it done here. Marco?
Yeah, just a very, very impressive performance out of Mahomes. And just I feel bad for the Eagles, as like especially Jalen Hurts, as he did everything he could in his power besides the one fluke fumble. And then they still lose like this. And now we can talk about the call. It was not a good call. Cal, you can talk about it first.
Yeah, so there's a minute and a half left in the game. Chiefs have the ball in the red zone, 3rd and 8. So the Chiefs receiver is running a little out and up route, and CJ Gardner-Johnson sort of grabs him a little bit. It didn't seem like it affected his route too much, but you do see a light jersey tug around the hip area, which is what provoked the ref to throw the flag, even though I don't believe it affected the receiver in any way. I don't know. It was just a really questionable call, especially at that point in the game, at this stage in the season, the biggest game of the year. Making that call is really tough, in my opinion. And a lot of people are saying, oh, but they would have gotten a field goal anyways. But if this pass is just incomplete, the flag's not thrown, the Chiefs kick a field goal, go up 3, but then the Eagles are still left with 2 timeouts. They get the ball with 1.5 minutes left, and Jalen Hurts has a chance to go down and make plays, maybe send it to overtime, possibly even win. So definitely a game-changing call. If you're an Eagles fan, you can't blame it on that. There's obviously things that your team could have done better, but definitely a controversial call there at the end. Marco?
Yeah, it was just straight up a bad call. By the way, it was James Bradbury, not CJ Gardner-Johnson, but that doesn't really matter. So yeah, he tugged his jersey, kind of. Though this is not part of the holding rule, he would not have caught it. Juju would not have caught it no matter what. That ball was overthrown due to the blitzing defender. But a hold is still a hold. It doesn't matter if the ball's catchable, but I just don't think this was a hold. He was, first of all, probably behind the line of scrimmage, therefore it would have been legal. You could argue he was past the line of scrimmage, as it was pretty borderline. So if you're gonna say he was past the line of scrimmage, it was a very light tug of the jersey. We see a lot more pushing and shoving, and tugging at the jersey in random games in the middle of the regular season, and we don't see a flag. But then here in the biggest stage with a minute left, the biggest play of the game, and you call that. I just don't understand how you can do that. And James Bradbury did apparently admit to saying it was a hold, but he just did that to avoid controversy and not get fined. So really tough way for the Eagles to lose. They could have done a lot more to stop it, but it makes the game it just feels a little wrong now.
Yeah, it does really suck for the Eagles fans. Like, you just never know what could happen if that's not called. But once again, refs are part of the game of football. They're part of the game in a lot of sports, and it's just in most sports actually. But it's just something that happens. It is unfortunate that it does, but it's part of the game, and as much as people don't like it, it's always been like that. All right, so moving on to some college basketball stuff. Marco, can you get us started with Tennessee, the number 3 team in the country, taking another loss to an unranked team? Last week it was Vanderbilt on a buzzer beater. This week it's Missouri on a buzzer beater. So, Marco, what does this mean for Tennessee's season, like with the rest of their season?
First of all, both of them were buzzer beaters with less than 0.5 seconds left against. Actually, Missouri's a very solid team. I believe they're ranked now.
Well, technically a buzzer beater is going to be with 0 seconds left, but
no, the ball is shot with very little time left. The Vanderbilt one, the guy shot it with 0.1 seconds left, and this one actually was shot with a second left. But this was a half quarter heave. He's probably going to make that shot 1 or 2 times in 10. It was even well contested, but you shouldn't be playing an unranked team this close at home and giving them this chance. They just didn't play well enough. Tyreek Key for Tennessee did drop 23 points, but it just wasn't enough. Their stars and Ziegler, Vescovi, I wouldn't call him a star, but he's one of their better players, just didn't show up really. And Tennessee has to be better. As I said last week, they're pretty much last year's team, but without Kennedy Chandler, who's their best player. I think this team is worse than Tennessee last year, who lost to Michigan in the second round. So I think this is a team, you see them on your bracket against a mid-major team that could be decent. I would definitely be taking that mid-major team.
Yeah, definitely Tennessee a potential upset in the tournament, especially since we'll probably still see them getting that 2 or 3 seed. So moving on, number 1 Purdue losing at Northwestern in a 64-58 score. The number 1 team in the country going down. That's pretty big. They moved to 23-3 overall, 12-3 in the conference. Purdue's still a very dominant team. They're very well rounded. They have their offense centered around Zach Edey, who's been able to facilitate, make passes out of double teams while also just getting a lot of points, getting a lot of rebounds. But this game for Northwestern was just they really just outplayed Purdue. Boo Buie, the Northwestern guard, had an absolute day. He had 26 points. If you're Purdue, that would worry me. I mean, Northwestern's a good team, and Boo Boo is a very good guard. He's averaging over 16 points this year. But letting a guy have 26 on you when you're who is going 1 for 6 from three. I mean, it's not like he was shooting lights out. I mean, that's got to be a worry. That's a lack of perimeter defense from Purdue that needs to be fixed. Northwestern didn't really shoot very well at all. 18% from three, but they were able to control this game from inside the arc, and they got it done. Marco?
Yeah, you'd think that a team who is built around Zach Edey would be better with interior defense, but I guess not. They were really just bullied here by Northwestern. They were physically dominated, and Northwestern, impressive win for them. I still don't think they're gonna go very deep in March, as they're pretty like not that talented of a team, and that they just don't seem like they're that good. They lost to Michigan at home, but this was a very impressive win for them. But again, there's just like not many great teams in college basketball. I think Bama is definitely the best, but everyone seems so beatable right now, which is why March is going to be so crazy.
Yeah, I mean, if there was ever a year to get the perfect bracket, I wouldn't call it this year. I'll say that much. All right, moving on. Number 18, Indiana, just getting by Michigan. Michigan almost had a buzzer beater at the end. This one was heartbreaking. Not gonna lie to you, I was at the game, and it really just sucked. I mean, Indiana revolves around Trace Jackson Davis, and they were able to get absolutely everything with him. He had 28 points, right, Marco?
Yeah, 28.
Yeah, 28 points. It was just backdoor cut, backdoor cut, dunk, backdoor cut, dunk. And Hunter Dickinson truly got exposed as to how slow he is. I mean, don't get me wrong, Hunter Dickinson played a solid game, but he is just simply not fast enough to guard those more versatile bigs. Fortunately, Michigan did make an adjustment. They put in Terrace Reed. He did a better job, in my opinion, in guarding Trace Jackson Davis. But at the same time, Hunter Dickinson does need to pick up his defense. I mean, he's such a good offensive weapon, but he can't be a liability on defense if Michigan wants to somehow edge their way into the tournament. Marco?
Yeah, it's usually pretty tough to win a game when you do not score in the last 5 minutes and 19 seconds, which is exactly what Michigan did. This, I think, is a testament to, first of all, maybe the players getting nervous. We're a pretty young team. Also, Jawan Howard having a lack of play calling or whatever he should have been doing. I mean, first of all, the last play was terrible. Kobe Buffkin runs around for 2 seconds, gives it to Jet Howard for a contested three. But yeah, if we scored 2 points in the last 5 minutes and 19 seconds, Michigan would walk away with a huge win against Indiana. But nobody was able to step up. Terrence Williams is not a good player. Juwan Howard is not a good in-game coach. I feel like he's probably a pretty good motivator. Not sure about in practice, but in-game he just doesn't have great plays. We've had like 5, I think, missed buzzer beaters with reasonable chances this year, all against pretty good teams besides Central Michigan. Yeah, it's just very disappointing to see this team lose game after game, even though they play as well, if not better, than their opponent.
Yeah, I mean, Michigan is still fighting to get into the tournament, though. Like, despite all these close losses, the magic number in the Big Ten is about 18 wins most years. Michigan has, 5 games left? 6?
Yeah, plus Big Ten tournament. 6 plus Big Ten.
Yeah, so I mean, if Michigan gets a couple wins versus Wisconsin, maybe pick up a win next Saturday against Michigan State, and then gets 1 or 2 wins in the Big Ten tournament, they're still looking at a tournament spot. So this season is far from over for Michigan. It's just going to come down to if the players are going to want to step up and find a way to come together and get a few wins coming down the stretch. Marco?
Yeah, just a tough loss, and we just can't seem to win games at the end. Next up, number 14 Baylor wins at number 17 TCU. Baylor, they're very banged up right now. But one thing I will say, Adam Flagler is one of the best guards in college basketball. This dude went absolutely crazy. He had like four threes in the last 5 minutes. He is unstoppable. I could see Baylor as sort of a 3 or 4 seed be making a run in the tournament, led by Adam Flagler. I really like their defense. Even though they did allow 68 points, that's not bad, and they get a huge win at TCU, even though they're pretty banged up.
Yeah, definitely a big win for Baylor there. Next up, Oklahoma State winning at number 11, Iowa State. Another one of our top 15 upsets. Definitely a big win for Oklahoma State there. I didn't get to catch this game completely, but what I do know is that Iowa State is a solid team. Good win for Oklahoma State. Marco, what are their tournament chances looking like?
Oklahoma State, I think they'll be a tournament team. They're at 16-9 right now. They've actually won, I believe they've won 5 straight actually. Seven of their last 8, including wins again. Their only loss being to Texas, including wins versus Iowa State at home, versus TCU at Iowa State, and they have Kansas coming in next week. So this team, if they beat Kansas, beat TCU, beat Kansas State, beat Baylor, this could be a team looking at maybe as high as a 4 seed. But I think at this point they're probably in the tournament at lowest, probably a 10 seed. But probably see them ending up at around a 6 or 7 seed and being a pretty decent team that a higher seed would not want to face in the second round.
Definitely looking a little bit dangerous heading into March, especially like that with that win streak that you're talking about. Next up, we have number 12 Kansas State losing at Texas Tech, 71-63. Tough game for the Wildcats here. They were coming off, or not. They're coming off. They've lost 3 of their last 4, 5. And 4 of their last 6. So it's definitely been a rough stretch for Kansas State. I mean, they started the season on a 6-game win streak, and then after a loss to Butler, they followed it up with like a 12-game win streak, and then lost to TCU, and then those last 4, and then lately they've lost 4 of their last 6. They're definitely trending downwards. Still a very solid team here, but they're going to need to turn it around. They're definitely one of those teams that appears to be trending downwards rather than upwards heading into March. Marco?
Yeah, but when you have a duo of Marquise Noel and Keontae Johnson probably the best story in college basketball, considering what happened to him at Florida. I believe he had like a cardiac arrest during a game, and he was able to come back, and now he's a absolutely beast for Kansas State. But this is really tough loss for them. It seemed like this was sort of a game, maybe bounce back. Texas Tech is not going to be in the tournament, but actually they are beating Texas right now, which is pretty impressive. But they're still not going to be in the tournament. They're 1 game above 500 at 13-12. This is a really tough loss, and hopefully the duo of Noel and Keontae Johnson can turn it around and go back to where they were as the best duo in college basketball earlier in the year.
Yep, and then our final recap of our final college basketball recap game is number 4 Arizona loses at Stanford. Definitely some drama in the Conference of Champions over there. Arizona is, don't get me wrong, an extremely good team, but this was a really bad loss. Stanford is not very good, and they let them score 88 points on them. I mean, this is an 11-14 team that the number 4 team in the country is letting score 88 points. So definitely defensively, Arizona needs some work. I mean, Arizona's offense is always going to be able to get it done no matter what. So they're always going to put up plenty of points, but they're definitely going to need to lock in defensively because 88 points against Stanford is inexcusable, and that is not a good look heading into the postseason. Marco?
Arizona is looking like a team that when they play well, they can make a championship run, but when they play bad, they could be a second or no, not a first round exit, but definitely a second round exit. So hopefully they can get it back together by the tournament. But I will say Stanford shot 56% from three, 61% from the field. Maybe that's part of Arizona's bad defense, but that just doesn't really happen when teams shoot that well. So you're going to lose some games to teams that just have the best game of their year.
Oh, definitely. There's definitely flukes, and it's not the worst thing to lose, especially late in the season after you're coming off a big winning stretch. It's never the worst thing to humble your team a little bit, let them know that they're not invincible. So I think I definitely could see Arizona making a strong comeback and learning from this loss. Anything else to say about this past week in college basketball, Marco?
Nope.
All right, then we will move on to our final segment. We have 5 games that we will predict for you in this coming week, starting off with a top 10 matchup. Number 1, Alabama at number 10, Tennessee. In my opinion, this could definitely be a blowout. I mean, Tennessee in the past week has lost to 2 unranked teams. I mean, both on buzzer beaters, obviously. But, I mean, like you've been saying, Tennessee's not that good of a team. I mean, they're solid, don't get me wrong. But I think Alabama is by far the best team in the country, and they're going to get it done here pretty easily. Marco?
Yeah, I think when Bama plays well, they could easily win the national championship unchallenged. But when they play bad, they can lose to bad teams by 20 plus. I believe a few games back they lost to Oklahoma by they lost to Oklahoma by 24 points, and Oklahoma's not a good team. Like, this team can have some bad nights. That's what Tennessee's going to need. If Brandon Miller plays well, he'll drop 30 on them. He should be a top 5 pick in the draft. He's probably the best player in college basketball right now. Maybe Zach Edey or Tracy Jackson Davis can make it a conversation, but definitely the most talented. And I just don't think that Tennessee will have an answer for him. I think Bama wins this game by 15 to 20.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely a top 10 matchup right there, but not one of the more exciting ones that you'll see. Next up, we have number 16 Xavier at number 11 Marquette. This one's a tough one for me. I mean, Marquette is a very well-rounded team. Cam Jones leads them in scoring with only 15 per game. And then their next leading scorer only averages 11. So this is definitely a team that somehow scores a lot of points despite having one guy that just like scores 30 a night. And I think that's actually a really good recipe for a very solid tournament team. You don't need one guy to just make every shot. Different guys can be on at different times, and I think that's what makes Marquette dangerous. So I got the Golden Eagles here. I think they're gonna make a little statement win right here. I know they're 20-6 right now. It doesn't look great, but I think it's a very well-rounded roster that they have, and they could definitely be dangerous heading into March. Marco?
Yeah, Xavier coming off a loss at Butler, definitely an awful loss. This game is really tough for me. I think it's going to be very high scoring. If you can catch this game, definitely watch it. It's going to be entertaining. Both teams average scoring over 80 points per game and average allowing over 70 points per game. Somehow Xavier's a top 16 team allowing 76 points a game, so they do not really play defense. But Marquette doesn't play great defense either. I see both teams in the 80s, but I would say Marquette's home court advantage puts them over, giving Marquette by 5.
Yep, definitely gonna be a super good game there. Moving on, number 22 TCU at number 19 Iowa State. TCU started off season hot, definitely been on the downfall. Iowa State coming off a loss to Oklahoma State, like we talked about earlier. This is a tough one for me, but I got TCU here. I think they're gonna get a good win and really solidify a solid seed in the tournament. Marco?
Yeah, both these teams have lost 4 of their last 5. Whoever wins this game will have a lot of momentum. And I think whoever wins this game probably gets a 4 or a 3 seed. Whoever loses this game could fall to a 6 or 7 by the time the tournament comes around. This is probably the most important game of the season for both of these teams. Both in need of a win really badly. But I do see Iowa State getting the win. I just think that Jaron Holmes is a very great player at guard. I think he's better than. I think he'll win the matchup against Damian Bell, both teams' leading scorer. Um, I think Holmes is a little bit better at defense, and I think Iowa State just takes advantage of home court and gets a huge win, and boosts their odds of getting a better seed.
Yep. And then our second to last game, number 9, Baylor at number 5, Kansas. Baylor is the number 9 team in the country with 6 losses right now. I mean, if that doesn't show you how weird this year in college basketball has been, I don't know what does. But this Baylor team is super talented. They always are. They're always going to be a threat to make a run in the tournament. Currently, they're led in scoring by Keontae George, and he's been really good. He's been making plays, scoring and passing, so definitely a really talented guard right there. But on the Jayhawk side of the ball, you have Jalen Wilson at forward, and he's just a really phenomenal player. Really all around guy, 6'8", junior, and he's averaging 20 points a game. Just really, really talented guy right there. And then at guard, DeJuan Harris is averaging 6 assists per game. He's getting the ball to Jalen Wilson, and they're just making plays together. So I think this Kansas team's super dangerous, and I think they're going to get it done here. Margo?
I think we might be seeing 3 top 15 players in college basketball on the court in this game. Jalen Wilson, Keontae George, and as I mentioned earlier, Adam Flagler is an absolute baller. That backcourt duo, I think, is just going to be too tough for Kansas to stop. If Keontae George is healthy, he was unhealthy last game, but if he's healthy, I think Baylor is maybe my natty pick as of right now if they can get healthy. Decently experienced team, but still some youth with Keontae George who can really explode and drop 25 a night. So yeah, I got Baylor in this game, and I think they might end up as a 1 or a 2 seed in the tournament.
Yeah, definitely Baylor healthy is looking like a dangerous team. And then our final college basketball game, number 5, Kansas at number 22, TCU. Everything I just talked about Kansas is still going to stay true for this game. I think they're going to get down here against TCU. Marco?
Yeah, shouldn't be too much drama here. Don't really see TCU pulling it off. Actually, I do think though if they beat Iowa State, in that game we predicted earlier, that could give them some momentum. Maybe more fans show up to this game, as then they would be a better team. If they lose to Iowa State, then I think they might end up as a 7 or 8 seed. But if they beat Iowa State, I think this game will be very competitive, and they might be able to shut down Jalen Wilson. But I just think Kansas is too talented, and they'll be able to get a big road win here at TCU.
All right, you got anything else, Marco?
Nope.
All right, thank you all for listening to the Second Take Podcast. We will see you next week. Peace.
See you.